One. All right, Monster Hunter World year in review. So, what do we think about the game so far, and how it is played?
Oh, so many thoughts, so many ideas, so many words to say. Um,
Fantabulous.
yeah, I think it's a wonderful game, especially being an avid fan of the franchise and everything like that. I know I've been playing since the PS2 version, so I started off wanting to throw my controller through my TV. That was the first relationship I had with the whole series. Was definitely love-hate through the whole thing, but being able to kind of see the game itself evolve and everything um, through it all, from Monster Hunter to Monster Hunter Freedom, Monster Hunter Freedom 2, and all the new weapons coming out. And this definitely is the pinnacle of it. I know, talking with you, Jay, we've discussed numerous times that it's almost like Capcom didn't really have the gaming platform that they've always wanted to execute, the game that they've always wanted to make. With the older games having these zones that you'd kind of run into, and you'd have to wait for the next zone to load and whatnot, and all the different equipments and tools and everything that this game now implements, and the almost free range that the map has, really takes the cake, I feel, as far as the implementations and mechanics that they've used. It definitely brings everything together. Really, I'm definitely impressed. So, I don't know. What do you guys think?
I mean, definitely the quality of life in this versus old games. The never having a load screen while you're actually in a quest is amazing. The just how you can gather on the fly, how you can.
I love that. That's one of my favorite features in this game.
And like, I haven't played any of the more
Infinite
recent
whetstones
games.
as well.
Oh yeah, that's beautiful too.
I couldn't believe it. Like when it had like the infinity sign next to it, I was like, "Are you kidding me? I don't have to bring whetstones anymore."
Oh god,
I
yeah.
don't have to go out and either spend money on them or go
I
mine
don't have to
them.
go mining for them. Yeah, it's just like I can use as many as I want. Oh, hello, protective polish.
Oh, dude.
That is definitely, yeah. They definitely got their shit together with this game, I feel
And
like.
like the mantles as well. Like when I was going through some of the mantles for the first time, I was like, "This is madness." Like some of the like, it's just like a free skill just slapped on that you can use whenever it's ready.
Right?
Yeah. It,
Yeah.
Some of the concepts they thought of for this game were just like awesome.
Mhm.
I needed it to be what it is.
Yeah, neither did I. I definitely agree with you there.
Yeah.
It's
But
definitely-
the only thing is that I'm worried about is if they go back to the older style that they had of the games, we are going to be so ridiculously spoiled.
I know, right?
You know, it's like, what do you mean 20 whetstones? Are you kidding me? You know, or
I
like,
have to
where
go
is my
farm them?
mantle?
yeah.
I've been looking at the what is that game for the Switch?
Generations Ultimate.
Yeah, and I'm just like, I don't know if I can do it.
The thing is, I kind of want to because I watched a lot of stuff on Double Cross, and I was like, ooh, actually, now that it's because the thing is it something that this game is missing, which is G rank. So I would literally buy it just to be able to get to G rank eventually, because some of the armors that they bring out for G rank and things like that's when the game is at its peak. That's when the challenge starts.
See, that's like you mentioned armors, and that's something that I feel like with this game, they textured everything well. It's a next gen system and everything like that. Like everything's done really well as far as the visual aesthetics go. But compared to its counterpoint being the weapons, I feel like in older games they did a really good job of making each weapon very unique to its particular monster. And in this game, I feel like they kind of use the same template of weapon, and then they kind of slapped an embellishment on it.
Yeah, like they just slap a bit of fur or some feathers or something on essentially the same
Yeah.
weapon. I know exactly what you mean. I was super disappointed when I first saw that. Like, it wasn't until the final upgrade that the weapon kind of became what it is supposed to be.
And even then,
And,
though,
like,
like
even-
you can still tell it's very much the base bone or
Mhm.
iron weapon with pieces slapped on. And there are a couple of weapons like charge blades, since I'm mainly a charge blade user, for example. The Rathalos. The last upgrade of the Rathalos is very different. It does not in any way look like the bone. I think it's from the bone tree at least. But
Yeah.
Or like you look at Legiana's stuff, and like that's one of the only trees as a whole with each weapon that does maintain kind of a uniqueness to it.
Yeah, and it's like the Nergigante weapons. You have to go all the way through the metal
Yeah.
tree. It's not until the last upgrade that it then finally becomes what it's supposed to be, essentially. Because the upgrade before that is just a few thorns thrown on a weapon, and then all of a sudden it's like going from what is it? Pergarishan's the Great Sword, for instance. Like the one before it is a Buster Blade with a few spines on it. The final one is
Right.
just like, ooh, look at that, boy!
Yeah. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
I definitely think that they've heard the community say that enough. And when you look at Devil Joe's weapons, you look at Lunostra's weapons, they definitely don't look like their cookie cutter weapons. They definitely have their very own look to them. So I do think they did kind of hear that out. And if they do another game in the kind of, I guess I'd call it like the style of Monster Hunter World versus the style of the old games, I definitely think they are going to work on making that better next time. And of course, for Capcom, this was a totally different game than the old style of Monster Hunter, and I definitely think it was probably a lot harder for them because they probably were very much used to making the old style games, and then coming in and doing this one was probably
Oh,
a
for
very
sure.
different way.
Yeah.
Definitely.
A lot more
Yeah,
work
this-
too.
Yeah, the art style is totally different and everything too, and it's just the mood and
So
the theme. I wonder what a new game would entail, because in the old games it's always you're going to this location and that location, and then I feel like Capcom tried to encompass this whole a new world, like, but at the same time, I don't know, I feel like there was this element of silliness behind it because you are essentially going to a new location in every game, pretty much, and how you're just kind of repackaging things again.
Yeah, but-
I mean, it's Monster Hunter. Like you're always going to repackage the whole Monster Hunter deal, but I don't know. Like I do wish that they had released a couple more things. Like, what Monster Hunter game isn't a Monster Hunter game without like a snow tundra and
Yeah.
stuff like that? And
yeah.
Like
I definitely
finally
think-
realised- Oh, sorry, you go ahead.
I definitely think the whole point of the new world, I think, was more so in older games you get 2 to 3, maybe 4 or 5 at most new monsters, and then it's the old monsters you fought. Even though you're in a new area, you're still fighting the majority old monsters that have been in the games already. Versus this one, you definitely have a majority of new monsters. You have a majority of stuff that was not already in the game. So I think that's where their premise of calling it the new world came from.
right. Yeah, I think now that as I'm listening to you talk about it, I feel like for a lot of gamers, there's almost a premise because they release these packaged games with, like you look at even older ones like Freedom Unite, where they shove all of these monsters in all of these areas and stuff like that. And then, if we take the first game that came out, they only had so many maps and so many monsters.
Oh yeah, jungle,
so-
desert, Forest,
Swamp.
or the Grey Forest. I'm trying to think of the names of them.
You had the
But-
swamp, and then you kind of had like the final like mountain area essentially.
Yeah.
Right. So what's to say, like, and like, if they do, I don't know if they're going to continue adding content out of this game for so long or whatever. If they end up releasing another game in this style, what's to say that they're not going to, release a new map or a jungle that's less like the forest that we got now, or something that's more woodlandsy or highlands or
Because they could quite easily throw the kind of like the jungle and the swamp in together and make like,
Exactly.
a massive area like that.
exactly.
Yeah.
Tundra is going to be a whole different kind of thing. Though. That's
Oh,
just
yeah,
going
for
to be pure ice over the whole thing.
Mhm.
And it will be beautiful, and I will want to make love to it.
I definitely.
You both, man.
So last year for Christmas, my sister actually got me. She got me a mug that looks like it's a hot drink. And like I remember when World first came out, I was sitting there drinking my coffee in my hot drink mug, like yes, a new Monster Hunter game. I haven't played any of the games the games that have more recently come out, and I was like so excited for a new game. I've been playing like the older games on emulators and stuff, and I was so disappointed to have played this game and there not been a need for a hot drink. Like I don't think I can recall any other Monster Hunter that there was not a hot drink.
I
And
think they all had hot drinks in them.
yeah, so it's like it feels like this game is missing something because of it.
Because
So-
of the hot drink and cool drink, or
Yeah, it just like without a tundra area, without a wintry area, and like it's even worse right now. We're in the middle of the winter solstice event, and everyone's in like these cold,
I know every time I see the handler in the middle of, and she's all bundled up, I'm just like,
Where's
is
my
what is this?
You are going to die.
Oh man. And like that's how I was, especially in the what was that? In Freedom 2. It started with an M.
Say it again, sorry?
The village there, start off with the T-Rex
Mo-
that attacks you. And
Tigrex? Oh,
the
I can't- I won't.
Pokey Village or whatever it is, or
Poke
something.
Village,
Yeah, and you got your snow gear on, and like, I refuse to change my armor based on the aesthetics of going out in the snow, even though like the Blanco armor had higher defense or whatever. I was like, just nope. I look comfier in this what I'm wearing. No, I'm gonna. This is what's gonna happen.
I'm essentially running around in a thong in the tundra area. I look good.
I'd refuse.
Yeah.
I'd
So
mess
Ah.
up.
I remember the first time ever seeing the Kazoo armor, and I was like, "Oh my god, it looks like Assassin's Creed armor."
I-
Slapping that on
remember.
and running around most of the game with that on just for purely aesthetic. That's before I knew all the defense and everything was a thing. But
Let's go back to armor. So when they implemented armor skills like in Freedom 2, they had armor skills, but you had to throw on an entire set just to get the bonuses.
yeah,
And it was just kind of like, all right, whatever. This is what you freaking do. And no, I don't think people really did that unless truly necessary, unless you had like full Fatalis armor or something crazy like that, whatever. But later on when they started implementing this mechanic of adding these skills based on varying pieces of armor and et cetera, I feel like incorporating this mechanic added a whole new layer to the game that I got so excited about because I'm really big into customization. Like I love that feature in games, aesthetically, and having the ability to kind of problem solve your skills in such a way, and watching it follow through into some of the other games, and then having them update it and try and whatnot, getting more and more refined, and then finally having this game come out. And the skills are, they did a totally different direction with this game.
Yeah. Instead of
What do you-
points and having to get 10 points, it's like every armor piece has, a certain skill to it,
Yeah.
which definitely makes it easier.
Yeah, like kind of goes up in levels and things. Like the first time I saw that, I was like, so when I played the beta, I was like, what in God's name is this system? Like you could, I can't remember what I managed to, like I was using the ice switch axe and I managed to get like a mass amount of attack up plus ice attack up and a few other bits just by switching armors around, and I was like, the capability is so much better. Like it's just, you can slap any old pieces of armor together and get like a reasonable set. Whereas
Right.
before you'd have to get to +10 to obviously get the skill to activate,
Hmm.
so it was a lot more difficult.
Right.
It's impossible, but
And I mean, like in the old
They-
game, you'd
yeah.
have like four skills. Usually, if you were good, maybe 5. If you were insane, you'd find a way to gem your weapon and end up hitting 6. In this
And-
game, you can end up with 12 skills. I love it. Like it's great. And they didn't like OP the crap out of the skills or anything. Like everything fits together the way that I feel like it's supposed to.
And you don't have to worry about negative skills.
You know what?
Oh.
I gotta play devil's advocate for a sec, because the one thing that I miss about negative skills is trolling people. Like I miss going into guild halls and having people check my sets and just being like, WTF, man? Like, what are you wearing?
yeah.
Like double poison and stuff like that. Like the most ridiculous skills on your set. That would make my day.
And-
You'd show up wearing the goofiest shit.
Definitely.
Oxygen. Oh jeez.
Health down, like.
Yep. But I mean, it works in this game. They like we were saying before in the last hunt. I think they covered their bases pretty well. They explored quite a bit. So.
Yeah, so the thing that I find with this game is it's almost like they made it a gateway game for people. You never played a Monster Hunter game before. A lot of my friends, when they first picked it up, I was like, hey, play this game, it's really great. And they play it and they're like, oh, how do you do it? It's really difficult, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, with this game, it seems it's a lot easier to do things.
Oh, for sure.
Like, there's so much more, what do you call it? It's so much easier to do everything, like get your armor skills, survivability is up. It's just a menagerie of things that make the game more accessible, I'd say, to like the new player in previous Monster Hunter titles.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's easier to pick up.
Go ahead,
That's-
you go.
It definitely seems like it's more of a game that is easier for someone to pick up. They definitely, and when it came out, they definitely said they tried to find a way to make it more enjoyable when you first start playing. Because in the older games, it was like, oh, I gotta go get 5 raw meat and 10 herbs, and like it teaches you about gathering for the first 10 quests, and you're just like,
Yeah.
Cook me this piece of raw meat.
Yeah.
Make
me
Which,
the
like-
piece of- It's like, give me this piece of raw meat, leave quest. Cook me the piece of raw meat that you found, leave quest. Combine the piece of raw meat with this thing you found on the quest, leave quest.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Find 3 herbs.
Yeah.
Okay, leave quest. Make me a potion. Leave quest. Make me a mega potion. Leave quest. It's just like, please.
Real fast.
Yeah. It's like, hunt your first Velociprey, and it's like, okay, you kill like 2 Velocipreys. Oh
Oh
was
my
that
god,
it?
dude! Remember back in the day, like, the other thing is the weapon selection they have now is like, going from only having a handful of weapons, like the greatsword, hammer, lance, a few guns, and maybe finding out as you went down the weapons tree that your sword and shield could turn into dual blades, etc., etc.
Oh god,
To
yeah.
You know what I mean? To getting
Yeah.
hunting horns and long swords and bows and all of these different, even the charge blade. Now, I actually didn't get a chance to really play through a full monster game with a charge blade until this one. Like I tried Generations for a little bit, but I didn't really get to end game. But this game was the first game that I actually got to really test out the charge blades and the mechanics of it, and just seeing the mechanics that they altered and changed with the pre-existing weapons alone, like just seeing the evolution of the greatsword, and how the greatsword went from this weapon that only had 3 moves to intermediate charges, and then like getting this final charge where you kind of do a cartwheel, and all these crazy things now that are in the game. Like I love it. Like I love the the combat in it, and it's fluid, it feels comfortable. Like in the other games it was just really stiff and rigid and pattern based, and in this game I feel like it still has that pattern based, but the rigidity's gone now. It's you feel like you're actually dancing and interacting and moving with the monster, and especially with how they've revamped the wrangling feature and everything. Like they definitely did a really good job with all the mechanics in this.
Oh yeah, and the environment. I mean, I think it's amazing how they've
Oh yeah.
made an environment that seems like it's a real living thing. Like it's not like the older games where you might see on occasion, like you had the Quintecos that pulled out other monsters, but for the most part, you didn't see 2 big monsters on the same map unless it was a fight multiple monster quests. Whereas this, you almost always can run into something else, and
And then
the
they
environment
fight each
seems
other,
living.
too.
Like the concept of turf wars, when I first saw that, I was like, what is going on right now?
Yeah.
I shat a brick, it's like you see Rathalos pick up Anjanath, it's like, oh my god!
But like, even so, we're talking about like the macro scale of the environment. Even on a micro scale, the fact that you have this net with the arm launcher and everything, like the arm launcher alone, I love that feature. Like I think that's great. Like being able to, what are these
like
beetle
the
things up in
different things you can put in
trees,
it,
and you
like,
can grapple stuff and
like
fly
kind of chunking
around
bits off
and
monster, slapping on your arm and firing it at it. It's just
yeah,
like,
and
you
you
know.
like I love that, and you can, like I was saying, you can equip the net there and pick up little animals that you find around and collect them, and
Like the concept of pets in your room. I was like, you can catch this stuff and have it sitting adorably in your room. Like that's awesome. I didn't know I needed this in my life, but now I'm happy that it's here.
right, exactly.
It is. It's just nice to walk into your room and be like, look at all this stuff I found!
Yeah. Well,
So
like
I've
you
got the
said,
little,
it adds
the
a
little.
living, breathing element to your environment. So
It's like whenever I walk over to my pond and see my ancient fish sat in there, I'm just like, yeah, I'm happy with that.
definitely.
Ah. Okay, so what do you guys think about how they've added monsters, implementing new monsters, and how often they put them in the game? And do you think how long do you think it will continue for? Do you think we're almost done with getting more monsters, or what do you think they'll do? What do you?
Hmm. I don't. I really can't say. I don't feel like I follow Capcom religiously enough anymore, just because I'm older and I don't. I'm not. I don't have like my nose behind the computer all the time, looking into things as much as I used to.
Yeah. With them adding monsters, so this kind of brings a. We'll combine my next question with being, what do you think about? Do you think they'll add G rank with the arc tempered monsters being kind of in a lot of ways about the difficulty of what you would get for G rank? Is this their way of kind of pushing and saying, well, we're going to add monsters, but we're not going to add a G rank, which in a lot of games would end up. Some games they would even with G rank add a new area. Definitely add more subspecies and sometimes new monsters. One or two maybe new monsters. But with the arc tempered, it kind of is almost on the rank of G rank, because you get a specific armor for them. You don't get tempered armor for your average tempered investigation or your average tempered monster, where you do with the arc tempered. And I mean, I definitely want to see it.
Yeah, I see what you're saying too, and especially because I feel like being someone who's played through other Monster Hunter series and comparatively been able to play other event quests and had certain rewards and been able to make certain things and whatnot, and like I think earlier we were even talking about novelty weapons and having those come out, and just wondering not only if they were to release more monsters or if they were to have a G rank, what would that entail? Like, what would that include? Like, would it include more armor? Would it include more weapons? Would it, would we just get higher rewards for certain things, et cetera, et cetera?
The thing with me is that I don't know if they will implement a G rank because of the augmentation.
How so?
Like, we've got the augmentation for the weapons and the armor. It's supposed to take it beyond what it is. Like, if you then bring out G rank, it's just going to make augmentation completely pointless, which is like quite a large portion of the end game is augmenting your gear. So it's going to completely make that null and void. Or if they bring out, you see what I mean? Like, you're going to give it an even further upgrade past the thing that you brought out because you don't have G rank.
Right.
That's my idea on it. Like, because of the augmentation system, I don't think they'll implement the G rank. Mm-hmm. That's why they've got arc tempered monsters.
Yeah.
Something extremely powerful to fight and all this sort of thing, and it's just there's too many points that kind of say, hey, we've got this in because we don't have G rank.
Right.
So
no, I mean
that's
that
my view.
Yeah, that does make sense.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And I think the thing they could do is kind of make it so it's like either you get augmenting back in the final upgrade of G, so you have to kind of lose your augmentation until you've finished upgrading it again, or it holds when they go into G rank, your augments hold on the weapon, and it just kind of what would the word be? It just adds to the attack, so you still get the same bonus to your attack over it, even though you're going into G rank. My one big reason is that when the PC version came out and the starting to mod came into play, one of the things that modders found in the game was actually hot drinks. So they're implemented, the code is in the game for hot drinks. They're just not actually unlocked in the game.
Holy shit.
So it's one of those things where there are two things that I can see of this, and it was they planned on putting a tundra area in, and as they started to make the game and it mature, they found that they just they didn't have the budget and time to finish every map, and the tundra happened to be the one that didn't get added in. Or before they ever released the game, they planned to put G rank in, and add the tundra in with G rank. So and it could be either way, really. There's probably about an equal chance to both, because especially in this time, you look at games and how often is it that a game releases and 2 months later there's a huge DLC added into it, just because, you know, they didn't make that huge DLC in those 2 months. Games take years normally to create, and that portion of DLC isn't going to take years, but it will take a good amount of time. And so I think what I'm trying to say is, I see a lot of times companies are making the game and the DLC and just not releasing it all at once and holding off that DLC. So did Capcom do that same thing with this? And they've already implemented and made it, and that's why hot drinks were in the game, and stuff is already in the game.
Right.
Now the other thing to say is in other games they've shown where I played a lot of Fallout 4, and I followed Fallout 4 pretty a lot. So I know that, like, when modders got into that game, they were finding assets for DLC already in it. Now, nobody's come out and said that they found assets for, you know, a tundra area, but so that kind of leads me to believe that it might have just been something that they didn't get around to making. But I'm hopeful for G rank.
Right. I mean, the other thing too is they could have, you know, been thinking maybe we want to implement an area, say, even in here where we are now, that's supposed to be more swampy, that could, or maybe a cave, you know, like in some of the older games, where there was a desert cave and you'd have to pop a warm drink to not lose stamina.
Yeah.
All the underground caves and the swamp area.
Right. So, I mean, maybe it could have been because they were thinking about creating a, you know, like a snow map, or maybe it was because they were actually adding another part of a map, or an element of a map that they never really got to, or something along those lines.
And one of the other things is that this game has definitely been their best-selling Monster Hunter so far, especially in the Western market, and so it stands to reason that they might want to put something in, because it is their biggest game. They might hope to get a lot of people back into it, and then again at the same time, they might want to not worry about implementing a G rank if they didn't already have it made up before release, and not spend the money on that, and spend the money on making a second one in the same style as World.
I'm probably leaning towards the latter. I feel like they would make a second one, you know, and release more content, more maps, more monsters, more weapons, you know. I feel like in a big way they're essentially rebooting the franchise in this new kind of, you know, MO, so to speak. They're, you know, they kind of have a new direction in how they want to do things, and I think foreseeably they're trying to coax the new generation of gamers into absorbing or reabsorbing the franchise in a new way, and I think this is definitely the best way to do it, especially because it caters towards veteran players that have, experienced the game since it first came out.
Oh yeah, I definitely think if going back to when the PS2 version first came out and playing it for the first time, like if you had told me back then that like this is eventually what Monster Hunter was going to be, I would have never believed you. Uh,
Right.
and a lot of that is just back then video games couldn't have been this. Even with lesser of a graphic fidelity, but just the power it takes. I mean, this game wouldn't fit on the disc size that was PS2 discs.
Right.
Stuff like that. So I definitely think this is, again, kind of where they might have originally wanted Monster Hunter to be if the technology was there when Monster Hunter first came out.
Right.
But so, and it would be nice to get a G rank in the game, but yeah, I'm definitely not going to hold my breath for it. I'd be very hopeful that they do make another game in this style versus the old style. It's
Oh yeah,
It's
definitely.
definitely very
I
fun.
don't really think there needs to even be a G rank, especially with like Arc Tempered. I think I
Arc
don't know,
Tempered is kind of their G rank.
especially yeah, like, and especially after you get used to them, like because I've been doing them more now. They have the gamma armor, and they've got enough with that it's just kind of
Hi.
like I feel like the game cohesively together is good the way that it is. The next step that they really can take is just releasing a bigger game, like Monster Hunter World 2 or whatever it's called.
So on that, if they were to, in theory, make another Monster Hunter game, another Monster Hunter World, would you rather it be more new monsters, or would you like to see the old monsters from more older monsters implemented back into and shown in the art style? Because if you look at a Rathalos from Monster Hunter 1 or even a more recent game and compare it to Monster Hunter World, the art styling is very, very different. So
Yeah, I think speaking of which, let's do Baroth, and we'll compare and contrast while we're talking about that. But I think that's a very valid point and a good question to bring up. For me personally, I think seeing a lot of the old monsters in the new art style has been very gratifying for me. Like it's especially being an art enthusiast and going to school for game design and stuff like that, and seeing the evolution of the resolution and the skins and the mechanics and everything,
Hi.
and just seeing how it's all kind of come together. And I would love to see a couple more of the old monsters brought into a new game, and especially like I love conceptually seeing new monsters all the time. Like I love it when they introduce a new monster that has cool attributes and armor and weapons, and like that's one of my favorite parts about these games is just being able to see a new monster and then kill it and make all the armor and weapons from it. Like I think that's so fucking cool. So
Yeah.
You lose that kind of first hunt sort of feeling, do you?
yeah,
it's
definitely. But the answer would be both. I would definitely like to see old monsters and a new monster here and there. I don't think they need to throw a plethora of new monsters in. I'm happy with one or two here and there, but just seeing the old monsters in the new style alone is like seeing new monsters. Like we're gonna go fight a Baroth just now, and if it'd be cool, like if we could do a compare and contrast. Like if we were having the
I
screens edited.
Yeah, I
And
don't know if I'm gonna do video editing in this. Maybe I will, and I'll just throw up a picture real quick of like the old style Baroth.
right, so like you kind of see, it's cool how
How different
even
it
though
is.
it's the same monster, like yeah, it's very different. Like even fighting them, there's elements that are still the same, but it's still very different. Like it's a totally it's very much the same theme, the same franchise and everything, but it's a totally different game, you know.
Oh yeah, and I think I think it'd be cool for them to kind of do a Monster Hunter World 2 that is kind of basically a premise of being back in the old world, where maybe like the monsters from the new world, some of the monsters are coming back over. You know, basically the opposite of the Elder Crossing. And the point of this game is that some of the new monsters are for some reason going back to the old world, and you need to find out why. And along with doing so, you kind of, you know, you're hunting a lot more of the older monsters because of that, along with a few of the ones from World.
Right.
Uh,
Definitely, I think that would be interesting.
so
I mean, I miss seeing a lot of the bigger monsters like Lao and Victalis and even Yan Moran, stuff
oh
like
yeah,
that.
I mean you have Zoro, which is your only really big monster in this
I mean,
game.
how do we really feel about Zoro Magma?
I feel like it's a big monster, but it's definitely not like the old big fights. Like the fortress defending fights where you were just kind of like, you
I
know,
remember the day getting together with my buddies on PSP and going and fighting the Lao Shenlong. Like, that was a fight.
Yeah, like I feel like there was a sense of urgency with those. Like you felt like if you didn't deal enough DPS to those monsters, like you weren't gonna clear the quest, you know. And I feel like whenever I fight Zoro Magdaros, it's like, well, I might as well grab a pickaxe, you know. Like I'm there's not a sense of urgency there. Like I'm not worried that I'm gonna fail the quest if I don't deal enough damage.
yeah, the first time I did feel an urgency. I felt like, oh, you know, I broke like all three of the magma cores, but not his head, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna fail the quest because I didn't do enough DPS, and then I end up like easily winning, and I'm just like, oh, okay, so it really was not nearly as big of a deal as I thought, that I didn't break every part when I had the chance. So
Yeah, I feel like Zoro Magdaros was a bit of a miss for me.
yeah.
And like aesthetically, I don't think they did a really good job concept of the monster. I think they probably could have done something a little different. The whole lava monster I don't know. I mean, his
Yeah.
armor is. I personally don't really use his armor for anything. I don't really do a lot of blast damage stuff, but I don't know. The whole thing just doesn't really tickle my fancy, but like Yan Moran, like, oh holy crap! Like the armor was awesome because it had, all the critical damage and focus up and stuff like that, and I thought it looked cool because it was like freaking samurai armor.
Yeah.
And I don't really think that they carried that through so much with this. I think that even with, so I guess since we're on the topic of carrying through old monsters into a potential new game, right? What do we think about old armor being carried into the new game? Like, what if they, revamped it or made it different in some way, or, added a little bit of flair here and there?
So
Like, because
what
I'm,
what
I'm
they
wearing.
could have done was like with the gamma armors, especially they could have like made it more like the old school sort of armors.
Or
maybe
vice
made-
versa,
Yeah.
like maybe you start with the old school armors and then the gamma armors are like this super pimped out version of the old school armor. You know, like the Lunastra and Teostra sets are just kind of.
Eh.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
I think they tried to keep the armors similar to the old armors. Like Diablo's armor really looks very close to what it did. And again, you know, they're dealing with a new art style, so I think that's part of why it looks different. But I mean,
I remember the days when Diablos never used to have a waist piece or a leg piece.
yeah,
Oh yeah.
that's
Holy
very true. But the
crap.
chest piece,
Back
like,
with Manoblos and stuff.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Jeez. Yeah. That's wow. That really takes me back.
Yeah. And speaking of going back, let's what if you could pick one non-elder, one elder dragon from any of the older games for them to bring into World, what monsters would you most want to see in the art style of World and brought to Monster Hunter World?
You're saying like it kind of has to be an Elder Dragon?
No. One elder dragon and one of the non-elder dragons. So one of each. So two monsters, one elder, one not elder.
Alright, so I'm gonna pick two non.
Alright, that's fine.
Actually, I'm gonna have to pick three, but it's only because they're all legitimately in the same skeleton category,
I know.
and that's gonna have to be Tigrex, Nargacuga, and Barioth. They all share the same skeleton, and they essentially have, you know, the same body shape and everything like that, if you look at it. And all three of them fight pretty much the same. And they're some of my favorite monsters in the game aesthetically, and mechanically. I very much enjoyed them. I like the pace that they're set at. I like how they move and the fluidity that they are set to and stuff like that. I think it would be really interesting to have a kind of monster that leaps around in that sense, because personally I like to evade a lot, so I feel like Oda-Giran and Tobi-Kadachi are kind of the evade monsters in this game, but you know, bringing those monsters in would pay tribute to the whole old school evading and whatnot. So I guess those would be my pick for the old monsters, or the non-elder monsters. And then as far as an elder dragon, I don't even know. I've always enjoyed Teostra and Lunastra. I feel like they're kind of, in my mind, they were always kind of the same thing, just because I think of skeletons and skins.
In old games, their moveset was much more similar and much more the same than it is in this.
Yeah.
They definitely have a vast difference in them that they did not in old games.
I mean, and the other thing too is I didn't get to play a lot of the games between, you know, like Portable Third and this one.
Yeah, I haven't either.
Right there. Generation X and 4 Ultimate and, you know, all those crazy ones and whatnot. So
I think the only one.
I think Amaterasu would be cool.
Yeah. What about you, Sloth?
I would 100% have to agree with Bish on the whole Tigrex Nug in the barrier situation, because like they've been some of my favorite monsters throughout the whole franchise. Like the first time picking up Monster Hunter 2 Freedom and like having Tigrex jump over the cliff, like landing on a Popo and ripping it to shreds as you all stood there just like, what the frick am I doing here right now?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like just that pure fear that Tigrex put into you the first time you saw it. Like, that was a terrifying monster. It's just
It
like,
definitely was.
damn! I am not ready for this right now, but I'm going to try anyway, and I'm dead.
Yep. Definitely remember that from Freedom.
Yeah. And like kind of when they brought out Unite and they brought out Nagakuga, you kind of had that feeling again, like the first time you go against it, you go into that foresty area and going
Oh,
on
God,
here,
yes.
and just from the shadows, just some red eyes leap out. It's like, oh good god! And the freaking the thorns that it kept throwing at you, it's like, ah!
Mhm.
And not a third with Barrier, you know, the whole kind of like jumping off the sides of the ice towards you and like throwing up ice tornadoes. Like, they each one of them, even though they were similar, they brought their own new concept into the game, which I really enjoyed.
Mhm.
So it's like they deserve to be in a game like this. And I would say Elder Dragon wise, I would probably bring back one of the siege dragons, like Lao Shan or Zhen Moran, because, you know, as Bishop stated, Zora for me was a disappointment. You run around, break a few cores, spend the majority of the time mining or picking up materials off the floor, trying not to get hit by falling lava.
Mhm.
You know, with Lao Shanlung, you were underneath it the whole time, smacking it in the stomach or smacking it in the feet. You know, all your buddies wait for it to come through the area and have its face there. You're all sat there with mega barrel bombs, just like, yeah, we're gonna get this horn. You know,
Oh yeah.
Remember poking it in the freaking face with a lance.
yeah. And
Totally
it's like,
poke.
but those kind of quests brought you together. Like Zora Magdaros, like you just run around like a bunch of idiots going, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just smashing cores, you know. It's like the first time I'd done it, I didn't even know there was one on its head. You know, and I'm just running around like a blooming raving mad lunatic. You know, it's like somebody says, "Have you done the one on the head yet?" What do you mean? What?
Yeah.
What are you talking about? Yeah, there's one on the head. Oh, no, then.
I think that was definitely a. I agree with Zoro, and I feel so. Zoro is kind of the end of low rank, and your first. Technically, he's a high rank monster all the time, so he's technically your first high rank monster. You don't even know about high rank at the time yet, though. But
He is butts.
yeah, and it just wasn't that exciting. And the same thing with Xeno. Xeno Jiva for me was just like this huge disappointment. It was a sponge. It was a health sponge. That's all it was, really. Like, it took seconds to figure out its moveset, really. Like, halfway through the first fight, you knew its moveset. You knew all its moves, and it's just, it took forever. I never want to fight it solo, because it's just like the most boring fight solo, especially.
Having to go at Arc Tempered.
We can.
that is
right there.
But so for me, now is it? Was Zenogre counted as an elder? I know it's
No.
supposed to. Yes, I didn't think
Zenogre
so.
Fanged Wyvern.
That's what I thought. Yeah. So I would want Zenogre just for the Super Saiyan. Oh, I'd really like.
Then you have access to Stygian Zenogre, and that's one of my favorite monsters. Like that bugger is badass.
He was the dragon, right? I don't think the dragon version of Zenogre.
Dragon element of yeah.
I don't think I've played a game with him in it. Like, I know who he is, but I've never played a game with him in it.
I think the first one that he appeared in was 3 Ultimate.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure, because I remember fighting him in 3 Ultimate because you'd fight him in the same like on the Tundra map. Because I remember like one of the areas where Giganox used to turn up, that's where you'd fight him.
Yeah. So I'd want him. And oddly enough, funnily, Kizu creeped me out when I played the original Monster Hunter.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I'd want to see him in this art style, this more realistic art style, because I feel
I
like he would be
really,
so creepy.
yeah, I wouldn't mind that. I wouldn't mind that at all.
Like, I
See,
think that would be so fun.
See, I was more creeped out by Giganox than Kezu because of the sheer fact that I never knew which end was which. Like, which end is the ass, which end is the mouth. Like, with Kezu, you knew exactly what was coming at you and what it looked like. Like, that is a massive white penis flailing around, trying to nibble you or fire white sparks of electricity. Like, you knew exactly what they were doing. Giganox, on the other hand, like, which end's gonna vomit at you? Which end's gonna start laying eggs? Like, it lays eggs mid-fight. That's the sort of shit you burn when you see it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is kind of creepy now that you say it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like that. That's what I mean. Giganox freaked
But,
me
like-
out more than Kezu ever did.
Kezu's introduction, when you first see him and he eats that Kelby, you're just like, what?
Oh, the
Yeah.
ass tripped down from the roof and that.
Holy crap, like that. And it's like, he doesn't do it fast, like he doesn't slow while it's still wriggling and moving. And
Yep.
that was so traumatic for me, like when I was younger. It's like,
Yeah, exactly. Because
oh, I
that's
have to fight this thing? Like,
it's definitely an age thing. It was definitely an age thing, I think
Yeah.
too. I was a lot younger when I first fought Kizu versus
I was just like,
Giganox.
nope.
So.
nope, it's a whole lot of nope. I
Yeah,
never wanted to
remember,
fight
you
it.
guys got some years on me as well, so imagine how I felt when I first saw Kezu.
Scared the shit out of me. Man.
This is a horrible monster to use a longsword on, but so then for Elder Dragon, I just want to go with Fatalis. That the black
Oh.
dragon, man. Like,
It's so generic.
I know. I'll tell you what. That is 100% him though. No, that's the sort of ones he just moves like. You know, can't think for himself, so he goes with what everybody else wants.
okay.
Oh jeez, like he didn't even say white Fatalis or anything. He's just like,
No,
no,
he's just like
Fatalis.
You could have said crimson. You could have said white.
Dude,
Tars.
But like, I always think of the lore, however you want to say it, of the black Fatalis, the Fatalis that burned hunters alive and melted them down to make himself armor. Like, that's just the most badass monster there is. Like,
yeah,
I
I
don't
do
know.
remember back in the day, like when, you know, like it was cool to have your own special guild, and people would come into your guild thing, like, you were like tough shit if you had the Fatalis armor.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't just like, oh yeah, you know, I got Fatalis armor. Like, with this, it's like, yeah, I got Xenojiba armor. Yeah, I got Narkuga armor. Or not Narkuga,
I was gonna say,
Nergigante.
hang on a minute here.
Like, yeah, I got Nergigante armor.
Okay.
Like, back in the day, if you had Fatalis armor, and that's when, like, shit was hard. Like, you had to farm for days to get, like, a gem or some shit, or, like, a plate. Like, holy
Yep.
crap. That's back when, like, plates were impossible to get.
yeah, before
And,
they
like,
started making rubies and stuff.
Yeah, dude. And, like, if you had full Fatalis, people were like, whoa. You know, like, it was, like, it was intense. Holy crap.
One of the biggest memories for me was Monster Hunter Freedom Unite, and I think I spent 3 weeks trying to get full Silver Rathalos armor because it took so long because of the Rathalos rubies.
Oh, yeah.
It's like madness.
Yeah, like, this game can be grindy, but it is. The decorations are like how the grind used to be, getting an attack decoration to get like rubies and plates, like back in the day. Like, this game is still grindy, but it's not as grindy as old games.
You know, we should compare talismans and charms.
Oh, no. Grinding for charms back in the day. Good
Oh,
frickin'
God.
God.
And then, like, even if you hit your table, like, no.
Oh yeah, I remember the hours spent.
It was
I didn't
hard.
bring
It was-
bombs
Doing
for this.
myself.
Did I bring bombs?
We're
I did
just-
bring.
We're just being
This
goofballs.
is. Uh,
We're just showing the viewers how to sleep now.
Yeah. Alright, who's blowing it up?
Wow.
Sloth, you got the biggest attack.
Damn.
Triangle circle that bitch.
He's gonna hit the tail before the bombs.
Dun, 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 dun.
Still done the job. I literally just lost my shield buff as well, so
uh,
still done 270 on the hit though, so I can't complain.
oh, someone got something. Yeah, that's definitely. It is. Oh, talismans. Talismans, man. Just talismans.
Oh, God, like, I used to hate it because like you'd see like the +10, you're like, yeah, and it's like water resistance. It's like, why?
Well, so like in Portable Third, there's a way you did Kelby quest, the Kelby quest, where you delivered Kelby horns, and depending on what your reward was from that, you could tell which table you were in, so which talismans you had chances of getting. So you would like open and close the game like 20 times, so you could get into the right table, and like
Yeah.
that was.
Yep.
That was a pain. And then you'd spend like 3 hours because you didn't want to leave. Just
No.
running around gathering, trying to
Oh,
get
God,
stuff.
yeah.
Like, because you didn't want to leave and have to go through trying to get back into that table, and you needed that like attack 10, KO +5, like talisman, whatever. Oh. So you just spend hours just gathering, trying to get these talismans so you could make that one armor set that you really, really wanted. And again, quality of life in this game with how armor sets are done is definitely nice. And like charms get annoying, so they kind of just switch talismans and charms around, or decorations and charms around, because they were called talismans in old games, I think. But is there anything else in general we want to talk about?
I can't really. We covered quite a bit, so
Yeah,
We've spoken quite a bit.
I think that's gonna be the video for us today, guys. I hope everyone enjoys it, and come join our Juicy Hunting server. Have a great day.